flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And good evening, everybody. Welcome. Nice to see those of you here. Some of you are following, listening in, watching in as we live stream. That's always an option too, and I think all of you probably are aware of it. You can check into YouTube or go to the school website, so that is always another option, but happy to have everybody joining us tonight. Roll call. Note those in attendance, all board members here, administration, other guests, and we will move on to approval of the agenda, and we do have an amended agenda. Everybody, or the board members, received the changes, additions to the agenda, but we will entertain a motion to approve it with the changes, and that being things that pushed. Item number 7 became consider a change to the school calendar. And then we have added an item 19. We will be moving to close the meeting at that point to discuss property acquisition. And unless somebody sees anything else, a motion by, was that you, Scott?
Yeah. Second.
Motion by Scott, second by Ethan. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We will move to Mustang Spirit. I will call on Mr. Nelson.
All right, Mr. Baki's going to join me.
Sure.
I have Nancy Grace. Jim, do I hit a button or not?
Is it green?
I changed it out. Do I do that?
Hit the button.
All right. Is this better? All right, so Mr. Baki and I would like to recognize Ms. Grace Kubish and Ms. Nancy Evans. We have been blessed to work with them for 8 years, and really, I can't say enough good things about them. They are behind-the-scenes heroes. They have a role in so many positive things that happen in our building, but they don't get credit for it. I think about COVID, how it's affected us recently. It's made our workload double, planning a new high school, things like that. They have stepped up. They make us look good. We get to take credit for things, and they're the worker bees. And they keep us in line. They keep us on task. They make our work look nice.
Good thing someone does.
Yeah. You know, they might leave at 3 and come back and work at night or come in on the weekends. We're here till 6 sometimes, and they're still at their desks. So these people are so dedicated to our district, and I could cry. I'm going to hand this to Nick.
Great. I'm going to start crying here, too. Nancy and Grace are really like family to us. My wife is, family with Nancy and Grace. We spend as much time with them as we do with our families. So this is an amazing team. This is an amazing family we have at the high school. Thank you. They do everything to represent Mora schools in a phenomenal way. They are the faces that our community sees when they come into the office. They model masking. They do everything we ask of them, and they're smiling, I hope, behind their masks. But they do an amazing job to make our district look really, really good. I am so proud, and I feel that I'm so successful because of these two right here. Nancy was here day one for me, and man, if it wasn't for her, I don't know if I'd still be here. She did an amazing job supporting me, so thank you so much, Nancy. Grace, you're doing an awesome job. Our Mustang Spirit.
Hey, I also thought of one other funny thing, if I could just add. We've been getting questions, any question you can think of. Parents are calling and asking questions. And no one has answers to these questions. We don't, you don't, no one does. But somehow they're fielding these questions in a professional way and getting back to people and starting FAQ lists. And so.
Well, I would echo that just from what I've seen over the years, too. And, yeah, one of the big parts of a position that both of you have is thinking on your feet, and I'm always amazed at how people answering phones or things where you have to be spontaneous. It's like, really? You knew that was coming? No, you didn't, but you just seem to remain calm and carry on. Yeah, the office is run really well, and well, I had no idea how much Nick and Brent do depend on you, but we'll probably hear about that at some point later. No, nice job, well deserved, and thank you, Nick and Brent. Very nice tribute. Okay, elementary.
Yeah, along those same lines, first I'd like to welcome Ms. Fusi aboard for the elementary. We're excited to have her at the elementary, stealing from the high school. So welcome aboard, Jennifer. Along those same lines, we would just like to give out a shout out to all of our staff. Bree Lane have been putting in so many hours with the AB schedule, Family Flex schedule. Our custodians set up this lunchroom to make sure that we could social distance as much as possible in here. They set up the old gym with 26 scoring tables to ensure that we had a proper setup, and they're doing it with smiles on their faces. We asked for some help from our paras because the office has been so inundated with things that we're preparing, and we had about a half dozen paras that volunteered with moments notice and came in to help last week. They're willing to come in even tomorrow. We got a shipment of PPE in today, and we have 2 paras that are coming in to help us sort that for our school district. So just all of our staff have done a wonderful job. Along with that, our teachers have been asking great questions to update our district FAQ. They've been in here more than usual, which is hard to believe, but anytime you drive by our parking lot, there's 50 cars at any given time during the day. So just a shout out to all of our staff.
I think Mora's held up as quite a model to other school districts. The answer to how we do things and do it so well is it's all our people. So everybody has stepped up and assumed whatever role they need to. And thank you to all of the staff, elementary, but also district-wide. Everybody has been amazing. Any other Mustang spirit at this time? Feel free if anybody would like to offer up any other recognition. If not, we will move on and to introduction of new employees. This is really exciting tonight. So who's going to go first? Or are you tag teaming? Randy, want to do it? Yours?
Our first new employee is Reed Gunderson. Reed is a 2010 graduate of Mora High School, attended St. Cloud State, and a unique fact about Reed is a 2010 graduate of Mora High School, a 2014 graduate of St. Cloud State, and a unique fact about Reed is he has a second small home on the island of Jamaica, which I'm going to start asking a few more questions about that. And if you didn't know, Reed was a rock star, and he was on the front page of the newspaper a couple weeks ago about homing pigeons, is it?
That's pretty cool.
So if you have any questions about vacation homes in Jamaica or homing pigeons, Reed is your guy. And Reed has been here before and is returning, so we're excited to have him back.
Welcome back, Reed. I was going to say welcome home, but maybe you like to call Jamaica home, but for now it's Mora. Second. So glad you're here. Okay, sorry, Randy.
Brent Nelson, the other Brent Nelson, graduated from Mora High School in 2000. Come on up here, Brent. Graduated from Mora High School in 2012. Graduated from Bethel in 2015. And a unique fact about him, he spent a semester studying abroad in Barcelona. So he's going to be teaching 4th grade. Reed will be teaching kindergarten.
Welcome, Brent. Just as excited to see you. I mean, this is just amazing. We've got
Yes,
good
we
Mora
have
people here.
6 out of 9 new hires were Mora High School graduates, and we have a 7th one that's student taught here, so we're excited about that. Melissa Coleman, she graduated from Lakeville at Glory Academy in 2013, the University of Minnesota for her bachelor and her master's, And a unique fact about her, she plays guitar and sings. So we've got entertainment.
All right.
And she will be the ASD teacher at the elementary.
Welcome, Melissa.
Welcome. Jody, you want to come on up here? Jody Linder was a graduate from Mora High School in 2009. She graduated from St. Cloud State in 2000, or St. Catherine's first. St. Catherine's in 2014 and St. Cloud State in 2019. And here's a unique fact about her. She's been skydiving to raise money for cancer. So
Oh, my
pretty
goodness.
awesome. And Jody will be our DCD teacher at the intermediate level.
Welcome home, Jody. Congratulations. Nice to see you. And all the things
Hannah.
you've done, you guys. You're amazing.
Hannah Strelo, student taught here last year as well. She was a graduate from Mora High School in 2016 and Concordia in 2019 of last year. And a unique fact about Hannah, she has a brand new dog, a lovable corgi named Finn. And she's
Finn
gonna
is
be
adorable.
and she's going to be teaching kindergarten here as well.
And welcome,
Welcome,
Hannah. So nice to have you here.
Carly, come on up. Carly Robillard will be teaching our DCD classroom at the primary level. She's from Isani, Cambridge Isani graduate in 2016, and a Southwest State graduate just this spring. She student taught at the high school in February and March, and then was scheduled to student teach here at the elementary in March and April. And a unique fact about her is she's left-handed. So. Welcome aboard. We get all six? 1, 2, 3,
Welcome,
4,
welcome.
5, 6.
That it? Mr. Nelson.
Randy's making us look bad here. All right, we're going to try to one-up him, though. Sammy Coland, come on up, please. This is Samantha Coland. She goes by Sammy. She is a new counselor helping out in our area learning center and at the high school. She comes from right down the road, Sandstone. Attended her undergrad college at North Central University and grad school at St. Cloud State. Last employer, she was an intern last year at East Central. Is that right? Her favorite hobbies, hiking, biking, and anything outdoors. And one unique thing no one knows, my entire family all has the same middle name. We're going to hear what it is? Or?
Yeah, did we hear what it is?
Oh, it's Jean.
Jean.
I like it. Welcome. Katie Bogey. You might recognize Ms. Katie Bogey because she's a 2016 Mora grad. She's teaching math at the high school. She's actually taken the really hard math classes that a lot of us don't want to even think about, calculus and pre-calc. She attended Hamlin University. Last year, you worked at Mathnasium in White Bear Lake. Her favorite hobbies are volleyball, reading, card games, and knitting. And one thing not many people know about Katie is that although she's quiet, she's very competitive. And she likes ping pong. Welcome.
Katie, welcome. Good to see you.
Mr. Nick Hoffman could not be here tonight, but he will be teaching our social studies department. He is a non-traditional student, so he had some different careers prior to education, one of which was professional firefighting, and then he got into and became a youth pastor. He then found his calling in education. He is coming to us from Malacca, where he did some special education, and like I said, joins us in our social studies department. He's originally from St. Croix Falls, Patty, is that right? And he is a Packers fan, but we're going to live with him anyway. A proud Packers fan. And we're very excited to have Mr. Nick Hoffman with us this year.
Yes. Welcome to all of you. This is amazing. I don't think we could have done any better with our crop of new teachers this year, and just wish you all a fantastic year in your positions, and it will be interesting, but thank you for coming on board. All right, we will move on then to a building project update. We have Sean Lewis here tonight from ICS. Uh, Where's Chris? Oh my, with your mask, you and Randy were like interchangeable. I apologize. No offense to either of you, that was a compliment to both of you. Am I? Thanks for making me feel better. I'm glad you're here, Chris.
Test, test. Good evening, Ms. Chair and the board. Glad to be here. The
Glad to
voice in
have
the
you here.
back, behind the curtain.
Yeah, this is a pretty big deal, this presentation, so.
Yeah. I'm going to
I'll
steer
let
over
you guys
here.
introduce it.
I'm going to steer while Chris goes through the PowerPoint we have. We're trying to get the projector up real quick.
Well, for anybody that doesn't know, we have had a planning group, a core planning group meeting for, how many meetings did you have? 3, 4? 5. And made up of community people, staff, administration, parents, and what you're going to be seeing here is their work over the past 5 weeks, and that's going to give us a very good idea of what our high school will be looking like.
Thank you.
Schematic design.
Well, again, exciting to be here tonight. This is the culmination of the effort of not only the core planning group, but also the people that participated in the tours, as well as the leadership and oversight committee that made the recommendation on Tuesday to bring this forward to the board. So I'll just, a couple of first slides here. Just again, this will be our agenda. The meat of it obviously is down to the design process with the core planning group and schematic design of the project. Just to recap, there we go. So just recap our process here. Again, we've got integrated program management as our process. So we ICS, we have the design team underneath us. We're steering and driving this for you, managing the budget, and to the point where we'll get the contractors bidding out the project and then manage those on behalf of the district. Again, our team below us, so we've got Wold as our architect. They've got a couple consultants, food service design and theater design, as well as our engineering team with Northland and Obernell. Very much the same team you guys are used to from your other projects, and we look forward to continuing that relationship. And then this is the ICS team specifically. So again, Sean, driving the presentation over there. I've been involved with the design primarily and will continue to do so. And then we've got Jeff fading off into the distance on the side there, along with a reef. So initial information gathering, just an update of where we're at in the process on the side activities. So we've updated the site boundary and topographical survey. That is complete. We may have to have them spot check a few things as we get the building located specifically as we move into design development, but for the most part that work is complete. Initial geotechnical study, that's the soil borings. We've done our initial round of borings, but again, when the building starts getting solidified in its final location during design development, we'll get another round of those just to make sure that we're mitigating risk with soil conditions and those things with the project. But that'll be likely late September, early October-ish probably when we'll be doing that. Traffic study, we met with the City of Mora Engineering Department last Tuesday, 2 Tuesdays ago, to gain input on desired outcomes of the traffic study. And we believe we have those, and we'll be moving forward with the traffic study in September. When there's actually traffic on this site, we realize it won't be full traffic, but some traffic's better than nothing. We have had a few traffic studies where we actually had to just rely on extrapolating information off of data the district's provided. So both approaches will work, but again, we'll have some traffic at least to monitor and help with those numbers. Again, ongoing meetings with the City of Mora. Again, we met last Tuesday. Another one of those topics was the stormwater management for the site, as we are going to be adding a lot more hard surface on this site. And we'll have to mitigate that stormwater runoff before it leaves the site. and either hold it on site or mitigate the flow that's actually leaving. So follow-up meetings throughout design development will occur, so as we continue to refine that design of the site, we'll continue to meet with them and get their input so that we have easy approvals as we go through construction documents. And then we're just going to keep monitoring state review. So again, the state of Minnesota will probably most likely do the plan review for this project and issue the permit. And we'll just continue to monitor that process as it continues. Communication decision-making structure, again, this is the layout of that we set forth early in the project. So again, the bulk of the work you're seeing right now is from the core group and the leadership oversight. Again, they recommended to bring this forward to the school board. So again, you as a board approve everything as we move forward on this project. No decisions are made in a vacuum. The bottom group is the group that we're going to be engaging in the next round of design development. So the user groups, that's when we're going to start to get into the details of each of the spaces you're going to see on the floor plan and really get to meet with each of the teaching groups and staff that'll use this building ultimately. So again, just diagrammatic here. Core planning group takes input from basically the users, but for this first portion, they were really tasked with developing the physical criteria, the educational criteria, and activities and community criteria to set that basis of the diagram that you're going to see. And then as we move into design development, those users will be engaged and bring that information forward to the core planning group. So again, I jumped a little ahead, but they're going to define the criteria. And Sean, if you jump to the next slide.
Next one.
Yep. So again, these were the initial draft criteria well before we started meeting. So we had a few basic items we had identified, some givens from the district, some commitments, and some criteria. As you're going to see on the following slides, those have expanded greatly and influenced the design that Wold's developed. So I won't go through all these, but again, we developed criteria for the general areas, so the commons areas, general organization, classroom organization. Next slide, Sean. Specialty spaces, performing arts task force. We actually did a round of tours of some auditoriums to influence decisions on how that would lay out here as well. So again, we gathered some more information and detail a little ahead of the process.
I'll just add too that, like Chris mentioned back here, this input gathering to the core planning group. The core planning group helps develop the criteria and the commitment. So it's coming from the Mora community and Mora staff. We're guiding that process.
And then project commitments. So these are very specific things that were developed through that process that the building ultimately has to meet as a goal. Just initial go back in time, this was probably the initial diagram you remember back from when the bond was being planned and voted on. That quickly evolved to the next slide, which we, after investigating the site, decided to change the orientation to a north-south in an effort to save the existing location of the track and field for potential future development.
Those were all very conceptual, just to show that we
Correct.
had the space
Yep,
to lay it
correct.
out.
The very first one was definitely very conceptual, just to put a budget number to for the bond. And as you'll see, greater development and things have actually moved around quite a bit. So again, these were just capture square footage, get it identified, get it budgeted, and as we move through the process. So here's our site plan as it exists right now. So as you see, the building there is in the north-south orientation. All access by students and visitors will be off of 9th Street. So we will have that first road next to the bus loop. That'll be your in.
Your arrow down there, so I
Yep.
think everybody knows where 9th Street is, but it's at the bottom.
Be coming in, drop-off drive will be along that road as you come in. Student drivers will be able to park in the parking lot there along with visitors. Again, that'll be used as well for event parking, along with, I would assume, the elementary parking as well, depending on need. The Wellia entrance has been somewhat relocated in this. We'll get into the more details of the plan later, but That's there. The bus entry will be on the bottom corner directly off the bus loop, where all buses will come in, and then we created a Wellia parking lot as well, specifically in that corner. Beyond that, we relocated a few things on the site, a couple being the track field events. We had to reposition some of those, so the baseball fields as well, and orientation really hasn't been discussed yet. These are just placeholders in the site plan so that we're confident that we're taking into account the right spaces. That detail will again be fleshed out during design development. And then we've got a service drive that's off of the county road off to the west of the site that'll access for staff parking, ALC parking, and then again our service drive that gets to you to the back of the building for any deliveries. So these are the overall floor plans. They're color coded and we've got blown up to these, so as I go through we'll be able to talk about specific areas, but again, bus entry down at the bottom, the Wellia entry, we've got our main entry, and then we've got a couple entries on the north. We've got an ALC specific entry and then a staff entry as well. So the very north portion of the building, that's our ALC, CTE classrooms and SPED, part of our SPED. So again,
This
we've
is
got,
zooming in on this space here is this next slide here.
so off of the shops, it's not completely shown there, but we'll have a building pad for those classes to construct outdoors and store materials that can be stored outside. The idea here is that we're creating a hub of CTE that can use multi-resources, be more not isolated spaces, but more community learning areas. And then FACS and art are kind of off of that with a maker space off of that. Again, we've got that specific entrance for the ALC, but they also can access the building through a back corridor if need be, or staff need to help assist in that area. They can access that area as well, so they aren't completely isolated, but they do have their own entrance for their own identity. And then we've got some of those SPED areas that'll spill into the next slide as well. So this is the bulk of the classroom spaces. So the lower level there, we've got 7th and 8th grade, and then we've got our science hub in the middle. We've got locker bays in the corner there on both floors, and then we've got the general area is kind of a commons off of each of those classrooms, a learning commons with a stair that would access both levels. And the idea when we get to the renderings is that we've got a lot of glass in that outdoor learning area, so there's a lot of daylight coming in, a lot of visual connections, so students don't feel like they're just trapped inside the building all the time. The SPED area is continues in that upper area there, and as well as some few SPED areas that are interspersed throughout the classroom area as well. The main hub, or I guess the pivot point of the plan, is basically the district office and the high school combined there by the main entry. We also have what we're calling a community room with that flex and board functions. So those are 2 individual rooms that can be used separately, or they can be opened up and used for one large meeting room. We've got the upper commons with the tech area off of that. So some of those areas like the school store and ITV will be located there. The auditorium is located off that upper commons, which helps with the elevation change of the upper seating. You can walk in on the top there and then walk down with the stage being at elevation 0, matching the lower commons. So we'll be able to move equipment easily to and from the choir and band onto stage, and yet still have the viewing capability of the seating rake that allows people to see rather than look through other people's heads in the back of their head. The item that links the 2 commons, we've got a learning stair there. So it's an area for kids to study, hang out, along with a regular general stair next to it, and then a lift for accessibility. But it's not a true upper and lower area. They integrate with one another, so you're not necessarily looking over a balcony into one. You can actually flow freely from one to the other. We've got our new kitchen space in the lower commons. that serves off the receiving and the boiler area, some of those utilitarian areas. Would you hit the next slide? And then we've got our game gym, our varsity and PE locker rooms, wrestling area, along with a multi-purpose smaller JV wrestling area off of that as well. Next slide. And then, as I mentioned, we have specific entrance for Wellia, so we're going to move that down, and it's going to be located between the locker rooms and the gym. You'll be able to come in there for Wellia and go upstairs. It will be accessible from fitness, but it only is an emergency exit only. Basically, it's dedicated so people coming to the Wellia Center during the day aren't mixing with students. That was one of the goals of the group to meet. And then we've got the fitness area there on top of the locker rooms adjacent to the walking track. Overall building massing, so as I went through those spaces, kind of working backwards, so we got the fitness here, you got the existing Wellia, which is the larger box there. The fitness area has the punched windows that you can see over that area, and then the Wellia entrance is right in between that and the gym, your new game gym. And then we come over to that commons area, which has a multiple levels of glass to let light into that area, with the theater in the background of that, and then the offices in the front for the district office high school. Our main classroom wing, there's the glass that I had mentioned off of those classroom areas. We not only have the punch openings in the classrooms themselves, but again, those learning commons off of that space provide for a lot of daylight and a lot of connectivity between inside and outside. And then we've got our CTE, ALC, and SPED to the north of that. These are a few just initial ideas that Wold's developed on the main entry. Again, we're early on. They're just starting to play with some of the ideas, but one of the ideas is that we're going to play off of the architecture of the Velasa Lopet Center and some of that Scandinavian-inspired architecture. So thinking a dark blue right now and maybe a darker brick that's been used on the elementary addition in the past. Again, very preliminary, and that'll be developed through design development, and we'll continue to update as those change and develop. Don't need to spend a lot of time on this. We really haven't expended a lot of dollars other than design fees right now out of the overall bond budget, but the one item I circled there is our overall construction cost that's available, which ties into the next slide on our overall estimate at the moment. So again, at SD, we run a very high-level estimate that's primarily based on square footage and overall systems. Right now, we're tracking just under 1% high, which is not uncommon at this point of the project. As you'll note, we have an estimating contingency of 2.5%, which if we were to zero that out, we'd actually be to the good right now, but we're very early in the project. We do have a lot to investigate on the site, specifically with the fact that we're stepping up as the building is laying out. So at this point of the project, we do hold a placeholder there. That again will fine tune as we get through the project to the point where we get to CDs and we aren't carrying an estimating contingency anymore, and we are on budget. All those unknowns have been discovered in the design. So. At this point of the project, we're very comfortable with where we're at. Again, it's not uncommon to be at this point in the design. So again, a lot of square footage and basic systems are being identified at this point, and that'll be further defined.
Chris, I have just a quick question. The numbers up there are a little different than what we have in our packet.
I think you got a draft.
Okay.
We were still refining. I got a few calls from a couple contractors that we were having help us on this.
Okay, so that's the right one.
Yeah, this is actually better than the initial numbers that you had. So.
All right.
Ready?
Overall schedule, again, we're coming to the end of schematic design, so there's all the meetings that we've had to date. A few of the tours aren't necessarily captured in there as well. But I will say that your staff have been great to work with, and the community members that have volunteered, along with the board members that are on the groups. A lot of good input's been given, a lot of good discussion. A lot of challenging discussion of trying to maximize the square footage we have and the budget we have. So I expect that to continue probably through design development as we go through. But I'm very pleased to be working with your district with a group that's so engaged. It makes the process a lot easier and it flushes a lot of those issues out early rather than waiting in the design. So kudos to your district. Next slide. So what's next? Again, I got the wrong date. That was the other date. Tonight we're here for school board approval of schematic design. Week of September 14th, we're looking at our first round of user group meetings. We anticipate probably 2 rounds of those. There may be some groups that we meet with 3 times, but later in October we'll have that second round tentatively. We'll be coming, if we look way ahead, in November, we'll be coming to the leadership and oversight again. Same process we followed on Tuesday, recommend approval of design development. And then the board meeting in November, board approval of design development so we can move into the actual construction documents that we'll use to bid the project out.
So we can celebrate approval of design development and go eat some turkey for Thanksgiving right after this one.
Great idea.
So next steps, just wanted to give you a little sneak peek of things we'll be talking about at future updates. So user group meetings, so this is an example, I'd say, of the groups we're going to be meeting with, but it's probably pretty inclusive of those that we'll be talking to. I'm sure Brent and Nick will come up with others that I haven't even thought of yet, but we'll definitely make sure we meet with all staff that need to be met with and we get their input on the project. They're also, along with this, it's not noted, but we'll be meeting, site specifically with the custodians. How does the building, work? How does it function for them? The bus people, how does it work for the buses? Is there anything we missed? Those kinds of things. So again, this will flush out all the details that really influence those drawings that we need to create to bid off of. And then the next is just an example of what that'll look like. So we'll conduct a series of meetings. There'll be meeting minutes that come out of those, and there'll be a series of drawings very much like those that'll be marked up at every meeting, and they'll come back and it'll look different than that, and we'll mark it up again, and we'll continue to refine the process as we continue through. But as you can see, things like cabinets, where the light switches are, that's the real detail we'll get into as we move forward with this. So. And with that, any questions?
Thank you, Chris. Any questions from the board?
So in the approval of this, exciting, the layout on where entrances are for the road, we're not really approving the layout here because we're still doing a traffic study, correct?
You're approving the concept.
Okay.
I will share that the city was fairly comfortable with where those were already. They don't anticipate that the traffic study is really going to change that. What it may change is turn lanes in, turn lanes out, and how we stack cars as they're waiting to get into the site.
Because that is a concern, and we've heard it from the public. I mean, the traffic that's on 9th Street right now, it can be overwhelming. To double it up or even triple it up with this kind of traffic.
So all your staff will actually be parking to the north, so we will be relieving some of it. They'll be parking on the north side. It's really going to be your student drivers and visitors that'll be up front. And with schools, we run into this with every district we work with. It's really, you're planning for, unfortunately, 2 15-minute periods of the day. And maybe at worst case it's 20 to 30 on the back end, but you're really planning traffic to handle that influx and outflux in those 2 periods of the day. And right or wrong, you end up having to do a little bit more than you necessarily want to, but we'll do what's needed.
I'll elaborate a little bit as well. For schematic design, the approval we're looking for is the intent. So this is more of the intent of the design concepts going forward, and then in design development, there will be more specific details that we'll be asking for acceptance on to move forward to develop the construction documents.
Good.
Does that help address that?
That's perfect. That's
Yeah.
kind of what I wanted to hear, because the traffic thing from this is very concerning.
The traffic study will heavily influence how this ultimately ends up looking.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No.
one specific item or one for example is this little shed here up on the screen, kind of by the shipping receiving area. That one that's a good example where we have that on the table still for discussion, whether that we would recommend that that gets removed during the construction process to open up a little more space here for specifically what you're talking about, the congestion that we want to avoid. We want to make sure we have a good flow of traffic, especially down here shipping receiving. So this is one example. Once we go into design development, this shed may go away. But the overall intent of the design concepts are what we're looking for approval to proceed on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Along with Bob's questions on traffic, with the highway out here, since most of the traffic I would assume would go probably towards the highway, all I heard you say is you were working with the city of Mora. Are we working with the state of Minnesota on the 9th Street connection to the Highway 65?
There will be conversations with the state. That is one of the areas we're going to gauge some of the traffic flow. Ultimately, it will, because that is a state highway, it's their decision whether or not they are willing to do improvements. Our project will not necessarily trigger improvements. And it's probably out of the bounds of the scope of this project because we can't spend money off of school district owned property. So it would be something we'd have to approach the state about, and what is the master plan for that intersection?
Yeah,
Well,
I would hope that that would be
Therein
done
lies
very
the
early
and,
on.
and there could be other ways
one.
to mitigate or to work with limited resources, such as maybe look at changing the speed limit further north as you come
Right,
into town,
that's exactly where I was going with,
which wouldn't
this.
be a real cost, like,
but that's why
altering
we
the
need to
road.
talk to them early on.
Right.
That's the reason I'm bringing
Yeah,
it up.
yeah.
Yep.
One thing with MnDOT, they won't talk to you unless you have a traffic study in hand. So again, September we'll get that started, and then once we have that, they'll be open to discussing that with us.
Okay. Thanks.
any other questions, comments?
Just feels like it's going fast, but everything, and I'm a small piece of it in one committee, but I will say that I just think it's coming along well too. A lot of good information and discussions, and I've been impressed with the design.
And it doesn't look like this without there having been a lot of discussion, moving
Lots and lots of
pieces
information,
and taking square footage from one area and because we need it here. And like you said, everybody has been so engaged and so willing to speak up for the most part. I think once the core group got up and running, it became a little more comfortable for some of those members, I hope, because the product sure demonstrates that, I think. But I just know from Illinois, there were a few pains in trying to figure out, where we were going to take from to add here.
And those will likely continue in the design development. We fully expect that, but again, it's better to flesh that out now than to be working on the actual drawings for bidding, and all of a sudden we're switching spaces around. So
Good work.
Thank you, Chris.
thank you.
And Sean, and so at this
My
point
pleasure.
then,
My pleasure. Thank you for having us today.
you're welcome. You're not done, but for tonight. Yeah, it's looking pretty exciting. So what we are needing tonight, if the board is prepared and comfortable, is a motion to approve the schematic design so that we can move forward and hopefully stay on time.
I'll make a motion to approve the schematic design.
Well, second.
Motion by Tammy, second by Scott. Further discussion.
And from my understanding, you're meeting with all those groups for their input and everything?
Correct. That'll occur in the month of September. We're going to let school get started and get into the rhythm of things, and then we'll start meeting with them.
Okay, as long as all the groups are gonna have their say. Yep, thanks.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Very good.
Thank you.
Move forward with user groups. Thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda is open forum. Would anybody like to address the board at this time? Seeing none, we will move on to the next item, and that is an update on the return to school plan. And I'll call on Mr. Voce, Mr. Nelson, and Mr. Quall.
Good evening.
Good evening, Dad.
Your partner's staying behind you?
Yeah, well, we're trying to practice social distancing. I don't know where the plan is. I have a very nice PowerPoint or slideshow. Kelly's gonna cue it up.
She'll find it.
So this on the timeline is our final time where we review this return to plan to school plan, and after that we'll be in school planning, right? So Bob Jensen and I were at a Rum River Special Ed meeting, and one of the board members from Bram, I believe it was, Mike, was saying this year has been like audibling at the line of scrimmage and being ready to change on the fly. I thought that was a real good analogy. So
Yeah.
we're certainly living in a time where things are changing quickly. So anyways, maybe I can just start talking. I know you have the board presentation in front of you, so we don't hold everybody up. But just as a quick little review of the goals of the Safe Planning Guide that we were given from the state of Minnesota, and that's, you know, prioritize number one, the safety of the students and the staff here at school, and number two was to prioritize in-person learning. And then three, consider the virus and the infectious nature of it. And then support the planning of the process while being flexible to districts. So the state of Minnesota has given, that's the different learning models and where the rates are at and things of that sort. And so as we mentioned previously, we're working closely with Kanabec County Health to keep an eye on the infection rates of the COVID-19. And as you remember, we started out pretty low, 2 or 3 per 10,000 in the district. And then they climbed up to something like 8 and then close to 10. And I'll give you a little update on where they're at right now and how that's going to affect how we start school. How are we doing over there? Trying to get that up yet? Okay. So I'll just keep talking. And again, they talked about the 3 different models, learning models, being 1, in-person learning. 2 would be a hybrid model where we could have half the students in school and half that were at home, kind of that A-B model. And the third one was the all-distance learning, and that would be the case where you know, infection rates would be so high that we wouldn't want any students in school and it wouldn't be safe for them. And there's some different requirements for the different models. In person, we're trying to take every safety precaution that we can, so that would be like masks, and then trying to distance as much as possible, reduce the amount of traffic flow within our schools, teaching students good hygiene, all those sort of things. And then when we get to a hybrid model, it's strict social distancing. It's 50% capacity in schools and on the bus and things like that. So it gets quite a bit stricter. And if you remember right, that's kind of why we set up our schedules to be more of 2 bus runs. So we'd be ready to transition between in-person and hybrid. And then also that we split students up into an A group and a B group, so families knew if we had to go to a hybrid, we'd be able to do that quickly. We'd be able to communicate that fairly quickly, and so on and so forth. I'm waiting for this slide. It'll be much more effective.
You're doing a good job of
Oh, do they have it?
We,
There we go.
We have it.
we have it, yeah. But
Wow,
we
there
wanted
it is.
everybody else to see it.
See this amazing? That's what, yeah. Thank you, Kelly. Okay, so we went through that. We went through that. This is where we're at. Okay, thank you. So these are the different learning model parameters that came from the state of Minnesota, and we attached the different phases in there. And remember, we've been, our case rates have been 0 to 10 throughout the summer. And so at the last board meeting, we recommended to do in-person learning for grades pre-K through 12. If you look at the bottom, we had an hour meeting with Kanabec County Public Health today, and they have the most current updated information that is not released through the state. Every 2 weeks, the state data is lagging, so it doesn't show this updated data. So you can see we are up to actually 26 cases here in Kanabec County between August 12th and the 26th. And so that rate puts us into, per 10,000 cases, 16.24. And so therefore you can see that shifts our thinking between phase 1 and phase 2. We sent out a letter to our parents, and I believe you saw that letter too. Kathy kind of did an excellent job of explaining what goes into making that determination. And the other things that we've recently found out, I think it was Monday, Ann Gran and I were on a call with the Minnesota Department of Ed revealing our regional centers and how they're going to support schools and making a decision between what learning model they would go in, and supporting the schools. So the nice thing is that it's not the school district trying to figure out and determine what cases are and what they're like and what phase we should be in a vacuum. We have the support of Kanabec County Public Health. There's 2 epidemiologists on the regional center. There's a person from the Minnesota Department of Health, along with Ann and myself, and the incident command team that we have here at school. So Kanabec County is recommending that we move to learning model phase 2, which would be in-person learning for the elementary. That wouldn't change, and that would shift the high school to a hybrid learning. So that is a change from phase 1 to phase 2. I think that there's, and again, we had a long discussion about that with Kanabec County Health, and they do all the contact tracing and things like that. So I've been relying on Kathy and Kate, and so our next step will be we'll get a hold of our regional support group, and we'll have a conversation with the epidemiologists and let them know that this is the recommendation, and they'll help us make that decision and support that decision. And then we will work with communicating this out to the public and to the staff at the high school. So I guess we didn't expect this to happen. I did talk to Kathy. We talk a couple times a week for Kanabec County Health, and everybody can kind of see those numbers publicly. They are going to make a dashboard. They just showed us today, and that'll give the public some more information. But I think they are recommending this because it's not close to 10, it's closer to 20, and that they believe this is the safest for our students and our staff and our community. They're concerned about the community spread as well. There was some questions maybe about what would this mean for athletics, and athletics would continue to be the same unless we got to a distance learning. Is that correct, Chris? Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. And I just took this from the Safe Learning Plan, and it just walks through some of those steps that I just talked about to determine kind of what learning model. And so the Safe Learning Plan is on our website. And so those are the steps that we'll take. Ann and I will have to talk to the regional sites or the regional support group, and then we'll have to, I just submitted our plan to be in-person learning for our whole district, so I'll have to get a hold of MDE and resubmit our new determination of going to phase 2.
Dan, can I ask you a quick question with this?
Sure.
Sorry.
Absolutely.
We're looking at this in the 2-week blocks, right?
Right.
These numbers. How frequently are we going to be making these changes? Because they can change very significantly in 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah, well, that's an excellent question, and Kanabec County Public Health does it daily. And so one of the things that we talked about today is there will probably be 6 cases that'll go off here in the next couple days, and then there may be some new cases coming on, so that number can fluctuate pretty quickly. And so we'll be getting those daily updates, but then as far as changing, like Kathy said today, that may take 2 weeks. We may want to wait 2 weeks in order to change that because of the wait time that they're asking people to do. So that would be maybe a safety measure.
So this is more than likely, or this is how we're going to start the school year.
Right. I would say so unless something drastically happens.
Unless things got worse. But if
Yep.
they got better, we're not going to change anything in the next 2 weeks.
Correct, unless they got significantly better, and they're not anticipating that. And so and she recommended to have that waiting period for some time. Am I speaking correctly, Ann?
Their recommendation is to wait at least 1 incubation period, which would be a
2 weeks.
or particularly a 2-week incubation period.
So 4 weeks.
So they're saying 28 days.
Okay.
And so that's one of the questions that they would like us to reach out to our regional department that Dan just mentioned. And so that is a question we'll ask them what their recommendation is, how long staying in this separate learning mode based upon our numbers. But what they're basing it on is how they kind of look at other areas of incubation and how long they're waiting till they're considered no longer having an outbreak. And so that's what they're recommending for school, is waiting at least 1, if not 2. So we're looking at 14 to 28 days.
Right.
So along the same line, my question had to do with communication with families. What are we able to tell them? Okay, we're going to hybrid now, or we're going to phase 2. What specifics can we give them as far as what to anticipate for returning or for changing to another phase?
Right. So we're going to do this for at least.
Yeah.
And then
Is that part of the plan, to keep parents updated and not tell them, and no, by the way, day after tomorrow your child will be returning to school? Or how much advance will parents have?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like we said, we'll probably at least minimum be a 2-week type of a plan, and they'll anticipate that that'll be like that or longer. And then as far as transitioning from plan to plan or from one phase to another, I feel confident that Kanabec County Public Health will get those numbers, and we'll be able to see the trend data, and we'll be able to make a determination. Just like we could see some of this building, and we were hoping that it would, go down a little bit more, but it just kept trending. So the state does give us 5 days, and we can request more if we want more time to transition and families to do that. Our communication has been all along, let's be prepared to move to different phases if we have to in a short period of time. And so that's been the communication all along, whether that's 1 day or whether that's 2 days or whatever the case may be. I think that's kind of why we set up our schedules like we did, so we can move between the different phases fairly quickly. It does probably put a stress on family schedules. And I think that's why the state had, like for elementary schools, they'll still be in person, and high school age or secondary age kids will be doing the hybrid. So I think that was part of their intentional planning.
I have a question or maybe clarification. Sorry, I'm gonna go like this so I can talk. Or maybe it's just for my sake for clarification. So right now we're starting in step 2. Maybe this is a different way to look at it. We're at step 2 now for sure the next 2 weeks. If what I heard Ann say, best potentially another 2 weeks after that to just go there. It's not to say that, I mean, if things get worse, we're not waiting 2 weeks or a month to go down to step 3 or step 4. That can happen at any given time, but we're not going back up or loosening them up until at least the 2 weeks, potentially 4 weeks. Yes? Okay, good. That's what I thought. I just wanted to, get that out there.
Yep.
It's good, Scott. Thank you.
I envision this 2-week window. You see all of the cases that are in the window, and you can predict when they're going to drop off the backside. So it's kind of a slow to move. It's not steps, it's phases. It's a little bit slow to move back to phase 1, but if you have a whole bunch of cases coming on the front side, you could more quickly move to a phase 3.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair?
Right. And when you see this dashboard, I think you can see the 2-week range,
Yep.
or maybe it was longer. I can't remember, Ann. And it was almost looking at your dashboard of your vehicle. It was pretty nice. So Kanabec County Health that'll, I think, really help the public and help us as well.
We've been kind of operating in 14-day increments for some time, so that's starting to feel a little comfortable. But
Right.
yeah, we can definitely move to a phase 3 or 4 a lot overnight, basically.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
needed.
If
Yeah.
needed.
Next slide, please. So again, I just put this on there, and this comes from the Safe Learning Plan, some of the wording in that diagram, that when we're monitoring, we're looking for the safety and we're coordinating the communication, we're contacting MDE and utilizing our support and regional support teams. So that's, it's using all those different tools, I would say, in order to do that. So that's kind of where we're at with our learning models, and we're gonna start communicating that out. Again, I had a meeting today from 2:30 to 3:30 with Kanabec County Public Health, so that's the latest information. Tim, do you want to go to the next slide, please? And everyone has noticed this. This is right on the front page of our web page. And this is for parents so they can quickly see and they can look ahead and try to plan and prepare for the different phases and what they need to know and all those sort of things. So it's a good tool a good visual for all of us. Next slide, please. And I just wanted to give a shout out to our communications team. We've been really working hard to communicate with our parents and our staff members. Probably more than ever in July and August, and we've done weekly and biweekly types of letters. I know the high school and the elementary have been piggybacking off the district communication. Our website, thanks to Tim, has been outstanding. I think if you go to the web page and you take a peek at it, the information is really easy to see front and center. There's a return to school tab that you can find. The gateway document, that is, you can find anything you want is linked in a one-pager. And our district newsletter that Randy and Bree do comes out weekly. Social media, I think there's been a lot of information on social media for people to see. So we've intentionally tried to over-communicate. So, and we'll continue to do that. We've got some more work ahead of us now that we're going to change models. We started, like Randy said, frequently asked questions for parents and staff. And so we've tried to anticipate all the different types of questions that people have. Okay.
I have one for the high school now that we're going to be going hybrid to start the year. When will devices be handed out, or how will that take place?
Great question. I'm glad that Shane and Nick are here because last I heard we were talking about during the afternoon, the day of open house. Is that still what we're thinking?
Shane and I spoke a little bit and just kind of discussed, do we bring people into a building knowing that we're going to a hybrid model? We feel that that's probably not the smartest move when we need to social distance more. And so we're going to come up with a plan that we're going to communicate out the groups that our students will be in, and we're going to handle as much of that as we can in-house when the students are in the building, so we don't need to have a community-wide event, bring people in the building, distribute devices en masse. So we'll handle that during the first week of school is what our intent is.
And the flex families will do what?
Yep, the flex families, Randy and I have been working together and everyone's been teaming up. Our plan is on September 2nd, if I remember the correct date, from noon to 3 at the elementary media center. Those families will be invited. We know who they are. We'll send them an invitation to come in and get that. And then for those that don't or cannot make that time, we will then reach out to them and set up an individual time when school's probably not in session, or a distance learning day at the high school, like on a Wednesday.
I was quite sure you had answers.
Some of
And
them.
I think communication has been outstanding.
And some of those answers may have been thought up about 20
Yeah.
minutes ago.
Well,
We'll add them to our
things changed
Q&A,
about
right?
2 hours ago.
I have a question regarding the high school side. When do you anticipate the high school students will find out whether they're Group A or Group B, and their schedules being sent out? We've got some eager high school kids who are awaiting to find out what's going to happen.
Great question, Tammy. Originally, our plan was August 24th. We've had some wrenches thrown in that plan. By tomorrow, our counselors hope to have all the schedules available on Student View. And then by next Friday, so before Labor Day weekend, the goal is to have all families know if they're A or B. I can see now that this is actually happening. The sooner the better for families.
Thank you.
Lane just uploaded the AB roster into our Synergy system, so we can probably expedite that a little bit quicker. She just got that in this evening before our meeting.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, you guys. Appreciate it.
Harkening back to class list for elementary school, how exciting that was.
One more slide, I guess, and then I'm done. And that is our timeline. We're chugging right down there. And actually, our new teachers were back this week. And so next week, we have our back to school workshop. Most of the workshop will be virtual. We have a lot of time built in for staff to do some of the things that they need to do extra this year, and that'll be important for them to have some extra time to plan for family flex and all those other things that we usually don't have a wrench thrown in the middle of back to school, which, like we do this year, is pretty much unprecedented. So I think
What a nice segue.
yeah, I think I'm going to have the elementary and the high school just talk a little bit, just overview. I thought maybe it'd be nice for you guys to hear and for the public to hear kind of what it looks like at a 10,000-foot view of what they plan to do. Okay,
Right.
so elementary, you want to go first?
Sure. We just are finalizing our family flex staffing. That open house, like Nick said, is noon to 3 on Wednesday. We just tried to stagger the number of people that are in the building. from 3:30 to 7:30, we'll have 1/4 of each class in during that hour, based on their last name, similar to our conferences that we've done in the past. Family flex numbers have updated a little bit. We are doing a grouping of a K1 teacher. Those numbers now are 6 and 20. They have leveled off. We're doing a grouping of a 2nd grade and 3rd grade teacher. Those numbers are 14 and 12. And then our interventionists at 4th, 5th, and 6th grade will wear mini hats like they always do, and they'll be the flex teacher for those numbers and interventionist in those grade levels. We've finalized some lunch and recess things. Like I said, custodians did a nice job of allowing us to set up this and the gym and allowing us to ensure that we could space out adequately in both of those locations. We are working with our teachers to set the recess schedule for the grade levels. We're going to have zones, so each classroom can go to a zone a different day. We never have more than one classroom in each zone. Tentatively, the zones are the tennis courts over here. There's 2 of them, 1 and 2. The playground, we are allowed to use the playground. That will be zone 3. The blacktop where the basketball courts are 4, and then the green space towards the Nordic Center would be zone 5. We're just stressing that we're washing hands before recess, throughout the day, but before recess and then after recess when we're using the equipment. Specialist schedule, we had to make some changes to that, but we're confident that we're getting as many minutes as we possibly can. They'll get a 20 to 25 minute specialist schedule each day. Social emotional lesson will replace the computer lab. We've had to pull Mr. Ballmer in to support 6th grade. And then Ms. Fusi's been working with Ms. Berry and their special ed teachers. They've been working really hard on updating all those IEPs with the CLP. Anything you want to elaborate on that?
Well, the CLPs are new to the special ed language, another acronym that we have about 200 of them, I think, in the special ed world. But CLPs stand for Contingency Learning Plans, and those are an amendment to the IEPs, and we're trying to get those done by September 15th. We trained special ed staff on Monday. The co-op did a nice job getting them prepared to write those amendments to the IEPs, just so all the IEPs are ready to go for the 3 different learning models, the in-person learning model, the hybrid, and the distance learning model, so we can meet all the needs of our special education students when we transition, if we have to transition to those plans. So they got trained Monday morning, worked Monday afternoon on those CLPs, and then they'll have another day sometime soon to solidify those plans so they're ready to go by September 15th.
We're just finalizing a few schedule changes, and they need that for the CLP. When recess will be, when will there be some established win times with each grade level so that we can pull and support those special ed students with their IEP minutes. So just a few things still in the works, but we're getting close.
Just a few more. A lot of work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks, Randy.
All right, so high school, let us know if you have any questions. Couple quick things, open house. We've only invited 7th graders and then anyone new to our district. We're not gonna do the mock schedule. I feel like that's gonna be way too many people packed into a classroom. So the orientation will still happen in the auditorium. Alphabet split into thirds, and then those groups will just meet their teachers on their own. Family flex option, we're right at around 70. I didn't put the numbers on the slide, but I'll tell you that our largest group is the juniors, and they have about 20 families wanting that. The smallest group is the seniors, and they only have 5. Otherwise, the other grades are all right around 10. One thing I do feel pretty good about, I've heard from only a few parents, and they're very appreciative that Mora Schools is being flexible during this time. I'll just give two examples. I can only think of two that are going full family flex, but still want to send their student in for a class. One example is a junior girl. She really values band, so their family chose she's going to stay home and she's just going to come for that one class. Another one is a junior high student family wants the student to stay home, but there's an elective hands-on class that they really want. You can't quite replicate some of those things from home. So open lunch, originally our awesome team of teachers that got together to come up with a plan, we decided to, and you were actually there, you should maybe be talking, but we decided we should have open lunch. And then now the more we look at it, it really just seems like we can space out a lot better when students leave the building. Communication, we're doing our best. We've had a few town hall meetings with staff. We actually have another one with students tomorrow. We invited parents as well. So we're going to record that and put that out for parents and students to see. That's at 10 a.m. One thing I did want to bring up, as long as we're here and we're hearing this news about the hybrid schedule, is the shorter weeks. You know, Labor Day is going to be on a Monday, and we really feel it's important to have equitable amount of in-person learning time. So what we would propose is the A and B group, we start off AABB, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So we don't have a distance learning day. Typically it would be on a Wednesday. I think you guys are all nodding your heads, so I'm happy to see that. Any questions that you have for us?
So I'm assuming when students come back from lunch outside the building, as would be practiced inside, to the hand sanitizers at the door as they come in, or they're sent off to wash their hands, reminded.
Yeah, Mr. Brandt's done a great job getting us supplies.
There will be things at those stations or throughout the building, I would imagine, but.
They've already installed some of the hand sanitizer stations at the major entrances where open lunch students would be coming back in.
Just need the reminder to
oh, yeah,
stop.
We'll be standing there reminding
It'll be drilled.
Yeah, we'll be standing there talking with them and reminding them.
We actually just yesterday added a fourth lunch period. So things are really changing quickly here. We split the 7th and 8th graders up just so we can have a lot more social distancing. That's our biggest lunch.
Thanks for your creativity and flexibility and inclusion and trying to say yes to everything that you can. I mean, it's appreciated, and you guys are just doing a great job.
I think when you get down to it, this is still the senior year for a lot of our students. We want to make that as memorable and as fun as possible, but still make sure that we're as safe and healthy as we possibly can be at the same time.
Any questions or anything else for Mr. Nelson or Mr. Bakke? If not, thank you, all of you. Very good. So, then I believe we are at item number 7, which is consider approval of the 2020-2021 school calendar adjustment. And as Dan had alluded to, it relates to staff development days. Dan, do you want to just
Sure.
explain the rationale again?
Yeah. So instead of having a staff development on the last day of school, June 4th, we were talking as our staff development team and some of the teacher leaders that, you know, it would be really nice to have more time at the beginning of the year this year, since it's a little bit different, or a lot different, I should say. As Jennifer mentioned, special ed teachers have to rewrite all their IEPs, which is, you know, usually in a year, what is it, Jennifer, 2 or 3, maybe 4, 5, and so. Right. Amendment with, to get the hybrid and the in-person and distance learning. Yep. So those 3 different models have to be updated in their IEPs. Still a pretty big task, I would say, Jennifer. Okay. Yeah. So just to be accommodating to our staff and give them some more time to do the necessary work that they need to prepare, like the family flex and all those different things, I'm recommending that the board approve moving the last day of staff development, June 4th, to I think it's August or September 4th And it'd be more of a flexible type of time for staff to get ready.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Bob Jensen, second by Bob Woods. Any further discussion on that motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, thank you, Dan. All right, we will move on then to information on the CARES Act funding streams. So, Dan, again.
Yeah, just thought I would update the board on some of the funding that we're receiving from the CARES Act, and it's going to be pretty informational. And for the general public, we hear a lot of what is the CARES Act. We're getting money from the federal and state government, and there's certain different types of CARES Act funding, and I'm not going to allude to it tonight, but there's also some county CARES Act for public entities, and we haven't figured all that stuff out. A lot of this is still in flux, but some of the things that we do know, I just thought I would share. So you can go to the first slide. I'm going to go pretty quick, but back in June, they allotted some CARES Act funding, one called the GEAR, which is really, as you can see, focused around technology and devices for students, summer school programming, which we didn't participate in this year. And the other one is the ESSER fund. You can see it's a lot more, and districts get a lot more funding, and it's based more on the student count formula, along with the underserved population. So we get extra funding for that population as well. So this ESSER fund really is an opportunity for us to get a lot of different needs met, and I'll explain that in a little bit. So if you could go to the next slide, please. And so there you can kind of see the different types of things that we can spend some of the money on, and they've changed this since June, and they've given a little bit more flexibility to districts, because at this time they didn't know that you needed to be ready for a hybrid model or something like that. That didn't happen until June 18th. But social, mental health, social, emotional, connection to school, again, that's social, emotional, physical, digital, effective learning opportunities for all, and again, that's where the underserved population came in. And then other local needs, that's, you know, like in Mora, we may need more money for transportation, or we may need more devices, or we may need more PPE, or, you know, things of that sort. So it gives you a little bit of flexibility. Okay, next, please. This is the other fund that just came out in late July, and it was called the CRF Coronavirus Relief Funds. And this is the one fund that is, I would say, the most flexible, because you can see that we can use it on many different things. The big things that we're going to use it on is some of the PPE, the cleaning supplies, mental health supports, technology, transportation, social emotional learning, things like that, school age care, child care, things of that sort. But you can go to the next one, please. So just some timelines. This is kind of an important piece too, is the GEAR and the ESSER, the one that came out first. We have until 2022 to spend that money, and the CARES Act fund, or the CRF fund, we have to spend by December 31st of this year, or we lose it. So we are going to be spending that money first, and that's the most flexible. So that we can use, I think, on our transportation and things of that sort. And we can go back and use anything that we purchased July 1st. We can code that to the CRF fund. So that's kind of nice. All right, next, please. And then actually the funds, Tammy and I went in and received our CRF funds, and they come in as a grant, kind of like title funds. And then the CRF one is more of a SERVS fund, so that we can get right away and access that. We have to explain and we have to track how we spend the money, of course. And like I mentioned the largest streams. And the gear was based on a technology survey, and that was our smallest funding stream anyways. I mentioned we may also receive some more money from the county, and they have kind of the same deadline until December. So we'll be working with the county to see if we can get some more relief in whatever need that we might have. It won't be a lot of money, but it will be some. And these are some things that we've been working on as an admin team. We've put our list together, and I think the thing we always say, can we use CARES for that? Can we use CARES for that? So we've got a list, and we've been working, and we're trying to prioritize. Transportation's going to be one that we're going to prioritize. Health and safety, obviously, we've got sprayers, sanitizers, PPE, plexiglass, gallon jugs of sanitizer. Technology needs, Shane's done, and his team have done a wonderful job of making sure that we have enough devices. We're working on a digital navigator, which helps parents and families connect. Our mental health supports and our health para that we're getting, we may potentially be able to use some funds for that. And the high school ALC guidance person that we hired, we may be able to use that funds. So that's it. Go Mora Mustangs. Questions about the CARES Act?
I have a question. Because it's so, there's a lot of focus on the mental health component of COVID, what it's doing to our kids, our staff. I know that's in there, but how are we prioritizing that? How do we let the public know that we are taking that seriously and it is a high priority for our Mora School District?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I think a couple ways it's in our plan, and I know our social workers and guidance team worked on that part of the plan, and that's for both staff and for students. And so I think once we built our product, now we'll be communicating that out and finding different ways that we can support our students and families through social emotional well-being. And probably I might be able to have somebody give you more examples than I gave, but I know that Sarah Rosso at the elementary and the high school team have been working hard, and maybe Randy and Nick and
And I know you guys do a great job, and we hear about it, but I don't think it gets conveyed enough to the community.
Sure.
Because it is a big issue, and it's a serious issue, but we almost have to celebrate ourselves a little bit better, advertise, and let people know what's being done, because we are doing some great things.
Yeah, good. Anything else to add, the high school?
I can chime in here. So we're fortunate enough at the high school where we were able to have a third counselor come on staff, and you met her tonight, Ms. Sammy Colin. So that's an additional staff member, and what great timing to have her on board. One of the things we've done also with our schedule is we've gone to an 8-period schedule, and the intent is that 8th period will be a social emotional support for our students. So our students will have kind of a homeroom, and we'll be able to, through our counseling department, provide skills and lessons, talking points, and also just time to help our families and our students with, maybe there's some homework time. Maybe it's a time to just decompress. Maybe it's time to go talk to a counselor. And so when we institute our odd and even schedule, that 8th hour for every student in our building, we'll have that time built in for them to just have their needs met.
Great, thanks.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good questions, good answers, and I think it's on a lot of minds, and rightly so. What about staff?
Good point.
I think that everybody needs somewhere to check in these days, and you've got the Hour 8 or the SEL lesson, but we've got a lot of teachers, paras, bus drivers, staff that are really affected closely with the whole having to you know, jump through the hoops, make plans and change plans, and then let's take care of our families and all the other obligations. And it looks like this could go on for some time, and I think everybody would have been in a different frame of mind, obviously, if we were back to some more of a normal, and we're not. So I think we need a plan ongoing for the adults in the buildings.
Yep, and I know that that is being considered through our social workers and guidance counselors. I know I read part of the plan. I don't know the specifics, but maybe.
Yeah, and I was just, Sarah and Stacy are.
And we don't need to know the plan tonight, but just so that there's an awareness that we have that need, or there are potentially a lot of needs that we need to consider. Great, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Update on Berghoff Dice New Field fundraising project. Chris, is it you? Perfect.
Troy couldn't be here tonight, so he had typed something up for me to read to you so that you guys would have an update. The original plan was to roll this out totally to the public today, but the Kennebec Times could not get the article in the paper, so we are deciding to wait. But the campaign for the turf field, it'll be kicked off next Wednesday, September 2nd. During open houses, we're going to have somebody here at the elementary and also somebody at the high school. They're going to launch a Facebook page, and the articles and ads will run in the Kennebec County Times next week. We decided to wait to have all 3 launches happen the same day to help eliminate confusion and questions of the people as we start the campaign. We are scheduling meetings with potential contributors after Labor Day, and we'll be aggressively seeking larger contributions in person as we get our meetings scheduled. We will be working on public donations and corporation donations in different ways to minimize our reach to these 2 distinct but equal important groups. So I think we've met 4 or 5 times, and we have a trifold we have ready to go. We have a donor card ready to go. So I think we're ready.
Good.
Any questions?
Okay. We'll look forward to the next update. So yeah, that'll be exciting to see some publicity and get it rolled out. So very soon. Thank you, Chris. Consent agenda. Are there any requests to remove any items from the consent agenda? If not, motion is in order to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Bob Woods, second by Ethan. Further discussion. We do have several retirements. I'd like to acknowledge Nancy Antonson, retiring from a para position. I believe I saw 26 years. Cheryl Alstrom, also a paraprofessional. I think I'm going to say 25 years. It said 5 in our report. Pretty sure she may be 25. And Don Semmelhack, bus driver for, I believe it was 11 years. So thanks to those people for their years of service, and we wish them well. They will be missed. Gifts and donations for July, Gary Goffin, Field Turf, $1,000, and for Citizens Bank, our elementary school grant for reader pens. So we accept those and acknowledge those with thanks. Any other discussion on the consent agenda? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes unanimously. Okay, informational in your packet on fundraising request, approved fundraising requests for 2020 and 2021. Everybody should have seen that. Don't believe any action is required there. Any comments on that? It's so that we have some rhyme and reason to our fundraisers and they're not all piling up at one time. There is a process, so it flows through the district office, I believe. So we saw that. All right, board reports. Board member meetings? Scott?
Yeah, I had met with ECRDC, East Central Regional Development Commission, on Monday night via Zoom. Got some updates. We have about $975,000 available through a couple of different grants that we received to, in addition to the other, I think we had $750,000 before. We've hired a coordinator specifically for that on a 2-year grant process, or they're, you know, we have them for the next 2 years. It's basically to help small businesses in the area, so certainly pass that word along. Penny Simonson also is a transportation coordinator, and there's some, if we would like some help with walking to school programs, this and that, there are some things that might be available there too for other districts also, but there's some good information that was out there.
Great. Thank you, Scott.
I had a Rum River board meeting yesterday, and we just approved their plan, and it's going off of, if it's Rum River North, then it's Malacca's plan, and Cambridge, Isanti off of their plan if it's Rum River South. So that's my report.
And hopefully it's fairly uniform from one district to the next, or
Yes,
we'll
they're both
make
identical.
it somewhat of an easy
Yep.
thing to navigate for families. I know we had somebody at the last board meeting that was affected by that and concerned.
Absolutely.
Sounds good, though. Yeah. Maybe that's what I was just trying to say. Thank you, Dan. Yeah. Great, thanks. Any other board members? Activities and community ed. Chris?
Can you hear me now? Okay. Cross country, running, swimming, and tennis. They all started practice August 17th. They all competed today, and from what I understand, we did really well. The fall sports have been shortened in length by 20%, and they've also dropped 30% of competition. So the State High School League is having some limitations on us. They also moved the football and volleyball season to the spring, so they're adding a 4th season. So we will be going into the first part of July with our spring season. Our junior high football and volleyball will be in-house this year, so they will start the first day of school. They'll do practices and they'll have scrimmages. But here inside with junior high volleyball, we will not allow any outside visitors in, so unfortunately parents aren't going to get to come in and watch. I have been on Zoom meetings every Thursday with the State High School League, and it sounds like they're going to have some guidance for our fine arts coming out next week, so I'm interested to see how that's going to turn out. I've also met regular with our conference ADs just to kind of keep everything moving forward. Just so you guys know, we have decided to close down the walking track as of September 1st, so we can have ample time for cleaning before our kids come in. So Amy had pushed out an email to our members. We've been in contact with Randy Elseth up at the hospital, and I've been in contact with Amy Schultz as well. She works here at the Willia Center, so. Anna, sorry, Anna. Any questions?
Hopefully it'll be a short term.
Let's hope so.
Any questions for Chris? Thank you, Chris. Okay, that brings us to buildings and grounds and transportation.
Can you hear me now? Is this on? All right. Good evening. Where did the summer go? We have been really extremely busy with our buildings. Of course, getting our HVAC up and running and getting inspected. This week has been really busy. We have the city of Mora has been helping us with our approaches on our back driveway at the high school. They're gonna put a new lift on Vine Street. And so I asked them to do our approaches as well. And they started that today. We got the dust collector system upgrade completed this week in the high school wood shop area, and that's a really nice upgrade for those guys for the next 3 years. Besides replacing steam bundle, I mean, we have RJ Mechanical really busy, replacing all the things that we need to get done ready for the winter and the heating season. As you can see, I don't know if we talked about it last time, but we resealed and striped the parking lot here at both the bus loop and the elementary, and really did a nice job. We also restriped our high school parking lot. We didn't reseal it, of course, but so that was kind of a bigger project this summer. If you recall, we talked a little bit about our boiler system and our automation system here at the elementary school, and it really hasn't been working that well in the last couple years. And we've been going back and forth and finger pointing at contractors and boiler manufacturers and stuff. So Kurt Norgard and I got in touch with all the parties involved, and we had a big Zoom meeting, and we got a lot of traction out of that, and we're working our way through it. And a lot of it's been resolved, but we still have some things to do, but we really feel good about their stepping up and saying, oh, this is bad, this is good, and this is whatever. So we're making good traction on that. We also had a district-wide custodial meeting the other week, talking about our new cleaning and sanitation procedures that we're going to install or implement this year with our classroom and our daily cleaning. And they was very well received. Our custodians are ready for the task. They're super hardworking and excited to make this as healthy as we can. Transportation, I know Mr. Voce is going to talk a little bit in his report on some of the weekly things that we've been doing with the transportation department, especially with the drivers. We had a driver meeting. We talked a little bit about the year and the phases and what we're going to ask them to do. And we have a strong group of drivers and employees that are ready for the task and are looking forward to the changes and the ebbs and flows of what's going to be happening this school year. The town bus stops will remain the same. I know there was one community member question, I think, reached out to a board member. We looked at that stop. We looked at that stop before, and it's not conducive to our route and our drivers. So those, I have to let you know every year that we're going to keep those the same. I think that's about it. We're still waiting for the AB list from the high school. I think they're very close, as our drivers are going to have to now, before school start, set up 6 different runs for the school year, and it's going to take them a lot longer. And it's, I've told them to get the parents to have a paper and pencil. If we're in person, we're picking them up at this time. If you're an A group, you're going to be, So they're up for it, and we're excited. I think I am 100% sure we'll get it going. And there's going to be hiccups, of course. There is every year, but we're excited. We're ready to go. So. Do you have any questions?
I think we have a good bus driver group that supports each other, so hopefully
Absolutely.
they can
They're amazing.
look over their shoulder if somebody's needing a hand or something. Yeah, good group. Any questions? Otherwise, thank you, Chip.
Yep.
Principals updates, high school.
I can jump in for the elementary while Brent's coming up there.
Sure.
We pretty much have covered everything that's on the elementary board report. The one thing for the staffing, we introduced the new teachers, but we are hoping to hire 3 new paras tomorrow. You referenced those retirements from the board report. Those are tough retirements to swallow. And resignation, there was a few resignations that those are big shoes that we have to try to fill tomorrow. So we're hoping to finalize that so that we're ready for Monday. We also talked about the special ed CLPs. 2 weeks ago we did CPI training virtually. We did half of it virtually, and we will do the other half later this year. And we're just finalizing the supervision schedules for those that will help with childcare in the morning. Some will ride buses in the morning, and then some will do PM childcare in conjunction with the high school paras. So we're just finalizing that, and we're hoping to have that Monday morning as well. But I think everything else was covered earlier in my updates.
Thank you, Randy. Mr. Nelson.
All right, I have just a couple things. You've heard a lot from me already, but I just want a couple shout outs. Our technology staff has been awesome over the summer. Right now they're ordering some sound systems for our teachers to be able to work more easily and be able to hear students who are at home. So thank you, Shane, and your crew. Childcare, pulling that together quickly, that's a huge undertaking. Nick and Randy really stepped up for that. Shout out to them. The drivers, Gail, Chip, running 2 routes, that is, most districts can't do that. So we're pulling off miracles, and it's a lot of work. So thanks to that crew. Band. Our music teachers they're amazing. First of all, can you imagine sewing 300 masks? Anna Patnott is doing it. She wants our students to be able to have band this year, so she is sewing 300 masks for all of our band students, and they have little openings for the instrument, and she's doing that to save money for our program and to make sure our students are able to have band this year. So shout out to them. And then the last thing, I just want to say that this class of 2020, this new group of teachers, there's something special about them. There's a twinkle in their eye.
Because they were our former students.
And most of them were from Mora, so that might be part of it. But you can just tell they're going to be rock stars. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, superintendent's update.
Well, I'm in the class of 2022. Also, I should say, class of 2020 also. I told the new teachers that. We have got something in common. So, yeah, quickly.
You're a rock star, too.
Oh, thank you, Karen. Nobody's called me that before, by the way.
It's a different year.
Yeah, I've got a lot of positive things that are happening within our district, our communications. Like I mentioned before, we had a town hall meeting with our staff, the 3rd one, over 100 staff members. All of our district admins stepped up and gave a little report to try to communicate what it's going to look like. I've talked to teachers. They feel good about having that information and being in the know, and it's been really positive. I've done some videos for parents, and Tim has gotten those on the webpage. I haven't got any rave reviews on that, so I don't know if the Rockstar thing goes to those, but I've been trying hard, and I'll get better with time. Our back-to-school workshop planning, as you can imagine, on a regular year, there's 1 million details, and this year there's like 5 million details. So our administrators and our teachers and our secretaries and everybody on staff everybody's been amazing, and I'm so impressed with how well they work together and how they problem solve things, and it's all based around kids, so and staff, and making sure that everybody has what they need. Chip mentioned the bus driver meeting. They've been phenomenal to work with. We're trying to finish up some agreements on how we're going to pay them, but I think we're close to that. I talked about district admin. We've been meeting almost twice a week for 3 hours just to kind of figure out what we need to do and how we need to do it, and we've been able to do that. Building update, you heard that. It's been a wonderful process, and we're not done yet, but I think the design process has been really inclusive, and I think it's going to be a building that the Mora community will be proud of for a long time, whatever that means. I've been meeting with area superintendents every week. I kind of started this by, I'm a new superintendent, so I'm like, we should get each other together so Dan Voce can learn what everybody else is doing. And so And so we started that, and then I'm like, do you guys want to meet again next week? Yeah, for sure. And so I know the principals do that, and we just need, everybody's trying to do the same thing, so it's good to hear what other people are doing. The MASA Great Start for new superintendents, I started that. That was excellent. I know that I gave you some information on that, but it's nice to know what we don't know and start building a good foundation of being a successful superintendent. I just want you to know that, like Chip said, we're working with our staff and with our students to keep all of the health and safety things front and center, and making sure that when students and staff come back to school, they have what they need to be safe and feel good about working. Yeah, Chip's staff, the custodial staff, has gone above and beyond to make sure, and the state, we picked up our PPE for students and staff today, so, and Randy and the rest of the admin, we've ordered a bunch of things, so we should feel good about how we're helping protect our students and staff. Any questions for the superintendent that aren't too hard this late at night?
Stump the superintendent, somebody? Any questions for Dan?
Well, I could just quick, the PPE for students, we are going to allow the students to wear their own masks,
Yep.
right? So it's if they didn't have a mask, that's the PPE you're talking about.
Right, yeah, the state is giving, I believe, 2 masks for every student and for 1 for staff. They're also doing some face shields for staff. We ordered some clear plastic types of shields so kids can see teachers talk or whatever.
Yeah.
Those are supposed to be pretty effective. And then some other PPE. What am I missing, Randy? Plexiglass for. As a small gift of welcome back to school, so that'll be pretty cool.
Welcome back.
Didn't have to rack your brain to think of a gift. Practical, functional, fashionable.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions for Dan? Thank you, Dan. Okay, upcoming dates are there for you. A lot of them we've talked about tonight, or they have taken place in the last, actually today and day before, so busy time. Correspondence coming around. Is there any other board business? Any other board business? Okay, second open forum. Would anybody like to make comment or address the board at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on then. Item 19 is we will be taking a motion to go into a closed session. Prior to that, I need to read this to make it official or just to be thorough. The school board may close a meeting to determine the asking price, to review confidential or protected non-public appraisal data, or to develop or consider offers to buy or sell real or personal property. The specific property must be identified before closing. So, we have established that we are going to be discussing the acquisition of property adjacent to what we have up here. And I think, Kelly, is there anything else that was specific to, I thought I had some other verbiage.
It'll be a tape recorded.
Right.
And that'll be on the tape recording
Okay,
in the closed meeting.
So that was the extent of what needed to be read then. Okay. So the meeting, yes, will be recorded. A recording must be preserved for 8 years after the meeting date. So we will not be taking any action tonight. We will come back into open meeting to adjourn, and that will be the end of the meeting tonight, so you're welcome to stay around, but there will not be any further action items or any discussion tonight other than to adjourn. So with that, I would entertain a motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ethan, second by Scott. And I don't know that that requires discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And just thank you everybody for attending tonight too. So feel free to leave.